Stunt doubles are often the unsung heroes of films. They risk their lives sometimes in order to deliver some of the most jaw-dropping action scenes ever filmed. Yet, they often are left out of all the major stories. That ends here, as Screen Rant is going to honor these stunt doubles who ended up bringing their respective movies to a whole other level thanks to their hard work. Don't forget to give this video a like and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more awesome videos like this one every day. But before we get started, can you guess the movie based on these emojis? Stay tuned at the end to find out.
Oh no. You brought the monster.
The Avengers, Paul Lacovara. What's better than one Loki? 3 Lokis, obviously. Tom Hiddleston stole the show when he debuted his character Loki in the first Thor movie, and fans were really happy to see that he'd made the main antagonist in the highly anticipated Avengers film. Fans lost their minds. With Loki came the Chitauri invasion, and New York was laid to siege. It was a breathtaking action sequence, but we can't forget some of the smaller moments that happened in the film, including Loki's capture of German civilians and declaring him their god. It's one of the simpler scenes in the movie, but it did require some handy stunt doubles to take care of the scene as Loki decides to duplicate himself in order to box in the hostages. Enter Tom Hiddleston's stunt double, Paul Lacovara. The Italian stuntman has worked with Hiddleston on all the Loki-related projects to date, including the first 2 Thor movies. Interestingly, he's not appearing in Thor Ragnarok, suggesting Loki perhaps doesn't get too physical. That or his involvement with the movie hasn't been made public yet. When it came to the Avengers and Thor though, Paul was super enthusiastic. Although he did say Loki's costume was a lot heavier than you might imagine, weighing in at around 35 pounds. Paul wasn't complaining though. Despite being a bit stiff, the armor actually cushioned a lot of his falls. Paul actually helped tutor Tom Hiddleston in the ways of doing some of his own stunts, mainly on how to land properly without injuring himself. So not only was Paul around to do the heavy lifting, but passed on some of his knowledge to the god of mischief himself. Right on!
The blood that flows through you is not your own. It belongs to the Creed.
Assassin's Creed, Damien Walters. The video game adaptation may have made a bucketful of money at the box office, but it was poorly received with critics and many fans. Many were left wondering why the most interesting part of the video game, the authentic historical aspects, were so heavily watered down in favor of a modern story set in a lab. While the story may have felt uninspired, the historical scenes brought in a fresh sense of urgency that focused heavily on action. Much like the game, the assassins in question are experts at parkour and can be seen leaping from rooftop to rooftop with relative ease. Michael Fassbender may have impressed us by speaking Spanish in these scenes, but we all know that it wasn't really him doing all those flips. It was in fact renowned stuntman Damien Walters. He's done stunts for such films like Skyfall, Kingsman: The Secret Service, and Scott Pilgrim before donning the hidden blades of the assassin. One of the signature moves from the video game source material is the famous Leap of Faith, which sees the player dive from a high vantage point to the ground, usually into a pile of hay. Believe it or not, Damien actually did the Leap of Faith for real. These kinds of stunts can easily be done with CGI trickery, but when you have a stuntman as good as Damien on the team, expect some crazy things to happen. Walters performed the Leap of Faith from as high up as 125 feet without a wire. Jumping from a suspended box, Walters had to aim for the crash mat below. The higher he went though, the smaller the mat became and harder it became to calculate the fall. Thankfully, Walters pulled it off, and you can see the Leap of Faith with some CGI backgrounds in the final cut. The Legend of Tarzan, August Dakertis. 2016's Tarzan movie was a fun romp that combined the literary icon with some historical fiction from the director behind Fantastic Beasts and the last 4 Harry Potter films. While Alexander Skarsgård got a bunch of credit for being in prime shape for the film, he acknowledges that he perhaps got too much credit and sheds some light on his stunt double, who took care of many of the action set pieces in the film that proved to be too harrowing for the Swedish actor. This is one of those cases where Alexander's stunt double, August Dakertis, a trained acrobat, did a vast majority of the stunts in the film, and the filmmakers replaced his face with Skarsgård's in the final cut. So every time you see the chiseled actor swinging from tree to tree or getting into a physically demanding situation, bear in mind that Alexander was actually watching it all unfold on the sidelines and that Dakertis was helping to bring the scene in question life. Dakertis admitted to the press that swinging around on one arm ended up being a lot more grueling than he thought it would be, with shoots lasting almost 12 hours, sometimes just on the stunt shots alone. If a trained professional is saying it was tough, that really says just how demanded and important someone like Dakertis was to a production like Tarzan. When not working in film, Dakertis can be seen working in the circus in Wales.
Am I going to have a problem with you, Bond?
No, don't worry. You're not my type.
Casino Royale, Ben Cooke. Casino Royale hit the ground running when it came out back in 2006. No, really, it hit the ground running as the opening action scene was insane. An awesome display of parkour and endurance, the scene sees the new 007 himself chasing down a bomb maker through a Madagascar construction site, leading up to the beloved crane sequence. While Daniel Craig himself did get up onto the crane in order to do parts of the fight scene, it was his stunt double was the one who got to do the really dangerous stuff, including some of the wide shots and that dangerous part. Yeah, that part where the two men jump from crane to crane, it's not done with CGI, nor was it done at ground level. That's Ben Cooke, doing a job that most people would classify as insane. Cooke's instructions were simple: jump from one crane to the next and then onto the adjacent building. It's a nail-biting sequence that really stands out as one of the best stunts captured on film. The crew could have easily brought Cooke and co-stuntman Sebastian Fousson, who is a pioneer of parkour, down to a few feet off the ground and use a green screen background, but the only way the shot was going to be shot was if it was going to happen for real. You can look out for Cooke's work as a stunt coordinator in the upcoming Thor Ragnarok, due out this November. Here's hoping Thor gets to do something jaw-dropping.
You just earned yourself a dance with the devil boy. You're under arrest.
Fast and Furious franchise, Tanoai Reed. You'd think a guy as athletically superior as The Rock would be automatically involved with just about every one of his stunts. He was a WWE champ after all, and knows a thing or two about fight choreography. While Dwayne Johnson does most of his own stunts, including what he does in the Fast and Furious franchise, he does occasionally need some backup when it comes to doing some of the more risky stuff. Unlike most actors though, Dwayne has been using the same stuntman for the past 15 years. And not only that, he's actually related to his stunt double. Ever since The Scorpion King came out and launched Johnson into Hollywood stardom, his cousin Tanoai Reed has been there with him. They even have similar traditional tattoos on their arms, and when duty calls, Reed dons the same tattoos as his cousin. Even spookier, aside from the two cousins having similar builds, is that both of these guys have the same number on their jersey back in their football days. When it comes to hand-to-hand combat, Dwayne is pretty much on board with getting into the thick of it. But when explosions are going off all around set, that's when Reed steps up to the plate and delivers some awesome moments for us rabid action fans. Perhaps since the two men are related and look very similar is part of the reason why we never even noticed that Johnson was absent in some shots. Regardless, keep your eyes peeled for Reed when he takes The Rock's place in the upcoming sequel, Jumanji 2. Welcome to the jungle.
Nothing.
Avengers Age of Ultron, Bobby Holland Hanton. What's better than playing one Avenger? Playing two Avengers. That's exactly what happened to stuntman Bobby Holland Hanton while working with Marvel for their MCU films. He started off by being a stunt double for Chris Hemsworth in the Thor movies and the Avengers. Much like the Asgardian, Hanton had to get into insane shape in order to be convincing as Hemsworth double. In fact, he's actually in Chris's contract. But when it came to working on Avengers Age of Ultron, Hanton had to go on double duty and also take care of some of the stunts for Captain America himself in the first half of production. Hanton explained that he was in Korea doing the chase scene and had 7 weeks to prepare to transform into Thor. The scene in question saw Hanton hanging off the back of a truck while the door ends up being blasted thanks to Ultron, which resulting in it essentially surfing down the road with Hanton on top of it. Doing vehicular stunts isn't something Hanton normally tackles, so he said the experience kept him on his toes. The final result was a thrilling action set piece that was wonderfully entertaining. He then had a few more weeks to transform his body to Thor's level. He increased his food intake from 5 meals a day to 8 and went to the gym twice a day instead of 1. Talk about commitment. Hanton also worked on the likes of Game of Thrones, The Dark Knight Rises, as well as the upcoming Thor Ragnarok.
It worked! I finally invent something that works!
Back to the Future, Charlie Croughwell. Back to the Future is a timeless classic for many. Driving into the past with the help of the DeLorean has become ingrained into pop culture and has been widely celebrated for decades now. Michael J. Fox did end up doing a lot of the skateboard-related stunt work in the film, but his stunt double, Charlie Croughwell, who would double for Fox in many of his future roles, ended up doing some of the more demanding shots for the time-traveling classic. Croughwell may be a little shorter than Michael J. Fox, but with the help of some clever editing, you can't even tell the difference. Croughwell took care of a lot of the jumping sequences in the classic skateboarding scene in the town square, where his work was mixed in with the shots that Michael worked on. One shot, where Marty McFly walks up the hood of a car, through the inside of it, and back off the truck of the speeding car, was done by Croughwell, and it's certainly a great sequence. Combined together, and you can't even tell the difference. But without Charlie's work, the scene would have certainly been a lot less eventful, and he's for sure one of the unsung heroes from the Back to the Future trilogy.
You ever been in love?
Nah.
Suicide Squad, Ingrid Kleinig, stunt doubles, the real Suicide Squad of films. Quite often, they end up doing large portions of the physical work and end up being forgotten by the masses. This is extremely unfortunate. On the topic of Suicide Squad though, one can't forget about the stunt double for the illustrious and criminally insane Harley Quinn. Actor Margot Robbie did end up doing quite a bit of the stunts herself. She also stepped in to help with the underwater scene from earlier on in the movie, where Harley and the Joker were being chased by the Dark Knight himself. Out Margot Robbie, Kleinig has also worked on the Hobbit films, Mad Max Fury Road, and was Brie Larson's double in Kong Skull Island.
So listen, I was wondering if I could ride you home. Give you a ride home.
Transformers, Colin Follenweider. We'd see the day, but we're not too far away from the release of the 5th Transformers movie. Love it or hate it, you can't deny the film series has had some pretty epic moments throughout the years and has some crazy action set pieces, and we're sure that'll be a traditional that'll carry over once Transformers Last Night hits theaters. But in order to make some of those action scenes, lead actor for the first 3 entries had to sit on the bench and let his trusty stunt double take the reins in order to get the perfect shot. Some of the action was just too hectic, and in those cases, it's best and normal to let the professional step in and do their thing. This is where Shia's stunt double, Colin Follenweider, stepped up to the plate. A veteran stuntman, Follenweider has over 80 stunt credits to his name, including work on everything from the X-Men franchise, where he was Quicksilver's stunt double, to even being Paul Rudd's stunt double in Ant-Man. Since Shia isn't in the new Transformers films, Colin has stepped away from the robot slugfest, but seen in everything from Doctor Strange to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. since.
That thing does not obey the laws of physics at all.
Spider-Man Homecoming, Marvin Ross. Homecoming will be the first solo film for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, thanks to a partnership between Sony and Marvel Studios. Actor Tom Holland will be returning after we got to see him for a little bit in 2016's smash hit Captain America: Civil War. Fans are already on board with this younger version of Peter Parker, both for his charm, likability, and impressive ability to do a lot of his own stunts thanks to his experience in gymnastics and dancing, a skill that landed him the lead role in Billy Elliot, the musical on stage. While Holland is more than capable in doing flips and other acrobatics, as evident by his Instagram posts, there were certain moments that even Holland admits were too much for him, so his stunt double stepped up to the plate and delivered the shot. During an interview, Holland stated that they dangled my poor stunt double under a helicopter and dunked him into a lake. We don't blame you for sitting that one, you Tom. Holland was initially down to do as many scenes as possible for the movie, but felt more at ease after he witnessed his double go under the water, claiming his current salary totally wasn't worth the dangerous move. Sounds like a riveting shot though, and we can't wait to see it on the big screen when Spider-Man Homecoming swings into theaters. Well, that's it, folks. Stunt doubles really are the unsung heroes of many films as they ensure the realization of a film's vision. What's your favorite stunt in film ever? And do you have a favorite stunt guy? Do you like it better when actors do their own work, or is it cut so dang well that you never notice if it's a stuntman doing the work at all? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Screen Rant for more awesome vids like this one. Oh, and the answer to our emoji question is... thanks for playing, guys.